Salutations, my salty dogs. Tonight I will be sampling a whiskey from the county of Cork that has a bottle with no cork in it. The irony is so rich it will give you gout, and I will be coming back at you in just a few moments. Yes, that is right. I am here, and tonight I will be sampling the Jameson Caskmates. For mates of casks everywhere. Slight change of scenery. I'm getting my study redecorated, so I've had to move for this review, and probably the next one as well. So, the Jameson's distillery, it did start beforehand, informally, but it was formally founded in the year 1810. At which time it was located in Dublin, but it has since moved to the county of Cork. And yet, the bottle we're about to have here has no cork. Have I mentioned that yet? Because it's annoying. And thus, I feel that I shouldn't be the only one to suffer, and I will now annoy you with the fact that it has no cork. Did I mention it has no cork? No cork, despite the fact that it came from Cork. And I'm... So, the interesting part about this drop is the Caskmates element. Jameson's had a relationship with a certain brewer, a man whose name will echo throughout the eons of time, but it does escape me for the moment. They would lend him their whiskey barrels to mature their stout, and Jameson's then had the idea, well, why don't we also do the reverse? Why don't we take those now stout seasoned barrels and mature our whiskey in it, and here you have it, the Caskmates. So I've done a lot of different maturations on this channel. This is the first time that we're seeing something that's been finished or matured in beer barrels, and in particular, it is stout beer. Stout beer, not to be confused with stoat beer, which is made using fresh stoats. You grab an adolescent stoat and you squeeze. Okay, there's no such thing as stoat beer, but maybe there should be. So, stout beer is a dark beer that, let me think. I'm trying to think of a good example of an Irish dry stout beer. Can't really think of any offhand. No, I got nothing. I'm coming up empty. I'm sure the answer's right in front of me. But stout beer, it is particularly known for being very bitter and having sort of dark chocolate notes to it. I'm a little bit worried about the bitterness, actually, because bitterness is not really something one lauds in a whiskey, unless it's oaky bitterness from having a very long maturation time. So I'm a bit worried that this might be a bit too bitter for my tastes. I did try and find out what particular brand of stout beer was used, but, I mean, let's face it, I've got no idea what's going on. Kind of like the political party you disagree with. So, let's turn around, have a look at the bottle, and see what we're dealing with. Jameson Caskmates, a special edition whiskey that accentuates the trademark smoothness of Jameson Original, with additional rich flavors of coffee, cacao, and a gentle hint of hops. So, the whiskey details. It is an Irish whiskey. It is a blend. It has been bottled at the very standard 40% ABV and has been matured, as I said, in stoat casks. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's make like Barbra Streisand and give it a nose. There is some sweetness, some general fruitiness, some vanilla. I'm getting citrus notes. Hints of milk chocolate. I am smelling the spiciness of the hops, and if you really dig down deep for it, I am getting some green tea. And so there is some sweetness, some very, very mild milk chocolate, some malt, some citrus tastes that kind of develop into a lemon, some fruitiness, and a big hit of bitterness. So really, really picking up the stout and the hops and the yeast. So quite a bit of taste in there. I would call this a short medium finish. Probably inching more towards the short side of things. And it's a little bit of chocolate, some very, very mild caramel, but what's really coming out now is a lot of bitterness. For me, the bitterness is now starting to become quite cloying. I have a designation that I call the second dram shabam. There are some whiskies that I will only like when I have the second dram of it. I would say this is the reverse. I think all the cumulative things that are adding to the bitterness within, they just get worse as you have more drops. So I think for me, by the time I have a second one, it's just predominantly bitterness with some other flavors occasionally. And yeah. Being that it is Christmas, I will ask Colin the Nutcracker what he thought of the Jameson Caskmates. So, Colin, what did you think of the Jameson Caskmates?
Too bitter.
He knows where it's at. So, the Jameson Caskmates, what did I think? I think if I was just going to have one dram of this in the evening, it would be fairly okay. But for me, once I start having that second dram, it just becomes a bit too bitter for me. It just accumulates. You know, a bitterness from, whatever the grain alcohols are, the bitterness from the yeast and the hops and the extraction from the wood, it all adds up and it becomes a bit too bitter. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this review. If you have, please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, or give us a thumbs up if you have. I will be doing one last review for this year of 2017. I am looking forward to it, and I will be sampling that last whiskey for you very, very soon.